All right, you got us?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for joining us here on this Friday in advance of the NASCAR Cup Series race at Kansas Speedway, and then also previewing Darlington next week. So we'll get to as many questions as we can in the time that we have with Denny. And to kick us off, we're going to start with Claire B. Lang. Go ahead, Claire.
Appreciate it, Amanda. Denny, were you upset with Bubba Wallace for going rogue and not working enough with the Toyotas at Talladega? Were you angry or upset or just frustrated? And have you talked to him about it?
No, I wasn't angry or anything like that. I just thought that we certainly, it's my job as his car owner to kind of observe, what I see and help him evolve as a race car driver. And one of the things I thought we had an opportunity to do at certain moments was that, hey, you've got 4 of us JGR cars lined up behind you. Just trust us that we're going to push you. And working with him to figure out how he can maintain his track position up at the front at super speedways. So I think that's a learning process. I mean, he's learning a lot in a very short amount of time, and he's having so much put on his plate every single week to try to learn new because this is information that he's never had before. So it's just a learning process. We go over this every week about where I see things that he can improve on.
And can you talk about 3 wins at Kansas? And you've had such a consistent season, but do you feel like this might be the weekend? And why Kansas? Why is Kansas so good to you?
Well, it hasn't always been, but it just seems like me and Chris have found a setup there that works well for us. And once you have that good data point, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of replicate that. So I think that it's a track I feel comfortable at. You can move around several different lines there and be fast. So I like the ability as a race car driver to be able to move around and adjust my race car based off of the line I run.
Well, listen, have some fun this weekend, and thanks a lot for your time. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Mark Garrow. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us today, Denny.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, I think we lost. Mark, can you hear us? Okay, well, we wait on Mark to get connected again. We'll go to Woody Kane. Go ahead, Woody.
Hey, Denny, appreciate your time. I wanted to look ahead to Darlington, where you're also a 3-time winner, including last time. Tell me about what you think the impact might be of the new package, or the different package, I guess, there at Darlington this year. And if you have a favorite memory of racing there, not necessarily one that you were in.
Yeah, I mean, Darlington's probably my favorite racetrack, simply because of how that track lays out and the techniques and the discipline you really have to have at that racetrack. I love it for that reason. Some of my favorite memories there really is from back in the day watching, I say back in the day watching Kurt and Craven. Their few lap battle there was just unbelievable, and it's Darlington in a nutshell, in a matter of a 1-minute clip. Just how you can the different lines that each person was taking, the slip sliding around. It's essentially the quintessential Darlington right there in one clip. So it's just a fun racetrack. You really have to be technical there. You have to time your passes. You have to time when you get past. All of that is just, it's a thinking person's game at that track. That's why you only see, some of the great drivers that have won there, and they tell you how difficult it really is.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay,
we're going to go back to Mark. Mark, go ahead.
Try it again. Denny, our next broadcast is COTA. I just wanted to know if you've been able to test down there, what you think, what kind of race you think we'll see at COTA.
Yeah, I haven't yet. I mean, I haven't been in the simulator with it. I raced with it, nothing yet. So I wouldn't know turn 3 from turn 26 right now. So I'm going to learn as I go, and I'm certain that in the next week or so, I'm going to put a lot of effort into preparation for that track. But right now it's so week to week with me where, I really spend my resources and times on tracks that we're heading to next. But, it's in the back of my mind of a track that, I'm certainly going to need to spend a little more time on.
Denny, that track sort of came to the forefront in America and internationally with the Formula One cars. Ever have any curiosity of trying to drive one of those cars like Jimmy did, or is that something that might be on a wish list or bucket list?
Yeah, I mean, I got asked the other day, it's like, oh, would you ever race, a Formula One car or Indy car? And I'm like, no, I would never race because I would never be good enough. That's just the facts. Is that if someone were lucky, brave enough to let me turn a few laps, yeah, that would be great. I would love to do it. I just think that they're so skilled, and as we see, that the transfer over is just extremely difficult. And I just don't think that I have enough skill set to be able to do it. But I would have an absolute blast turning laps in an open wheel car.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Jenna Frye. Go ahead, Jenna.
Hey, Denny. Bob's on a plane right now to Kansas, so he texted me a couple questions to ask you, so bear with me for a second. His first question is, what do you think the vibe will be next week racing on Mother's Day and with throwback for this race instead of Labor Day weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, Darlington's had that date bounced around quite a bit. I don't know that it feels much different from my perspective or the driver's perspective. Yeah, it's I don't know that it's a lot different from my seat. Having it on Labor Day was no more or less significant than when it was, in March or whatever it was. So I just think that, it's a big thing for the historians of the world, but I just, you're racing at Darlington, so it's, it's a big deal. And I think that the Southern 500 has been on various different dates. It's still the Southern 500 because of the history of that racetrack. It doesn't really matter what date you place it on. It's the Masters, right? Last year, the Masters got moved to November. It didn't make it any less significant than what it was in April. So it's about the venue and the event, not necessarily the date that it falls on.
The second question is, how do you assess Bubba being 20th in the standings but not having a top 15 yet this year?
Well, it just tells me that, you got to just optimize your day. And that's something that team has not really done a great job of throughout the year, is that, finish where you're running. They've run inside the top 10 in 3 races and had a car capable of being, contending for top 5, and, mistakes take them out of it. So I think that they've really got to work on their execution. I think that Bubba has to continue to evolve as a driver, put the work in, and really just concentrate on how he can do his job to the best of his abilities and use all the tools that is at his disposal. So we're working on that. I think it's going to get better, but for them to be 30 points out of the playoffs and finishing where they're finishing, that should be a big wake-up call to say, if we just do our jobs, everyone does their job to their best of their ability, they'll be fine, and they'll continue to get better each week. And so, the barrier's been kind of set where we're at in the spring, and I talked about earlier in the year, I want to be running better in the summer than they were in the spring, better in the fall than they were in the summer. So this is a building process that we're putting together. But what I do like is I like his raw speed that he's got. He's great on restarts. He's making great moves, and it's just, we got to keep him, growing, and he's 10 years behind at least on experience from what I have. And so I'm as the car owner and someone invested in it, trying to continue to make him a better race car driver.
And then my question, you go back to Darlington next week. It's not quite a year to when you guys went back racing, but almost a year. What's this year been like in the pandemic, and as a driver, and also now as a car owner? how important is it to get the garage open again for business?
Yeah. I mean, it's been very different. I mean, appearances, I haven't shooken any hands for sponsors or taken any pictures by the race car in a year, right? And that's a lot of the value that these companies see in NASCAR is it's well beyond a sticker on a race car. We don't sell stickers on race cars anymore. It's the activation. It's how are we entertaining them on race day and their guests? How are we providing a service to them beyond a sticker on a race car? The cost in which it takes to be successful in the sport is high. And to get that number, you have to provide a significant amount of value to the sponsors. And unfortunately, in our sport, teams cannot survive without sponsorship. It's the only sport that will not survive if it has no sponsors. So I'm glad to see that we're getting back to it. It's a crucial part of our current business model. So we will be actively, welcoming our guests back to the racetrack as soon as they're allowed in. So that's what our agenda is, and it's been a tough sled on the car owner side to try to provide that value that these companies are writing checks for, being that they can't do anything but put a sticker on the car at the moment.
What's 2311 had to do to make sponsors happy?
Well, I think we're in a unique situation. We've done a lot of virtual meet and greets. There's some activation that we're doing at Kansas this weekend with our partners there. Just little things, social media stuff. It's doing everything you can without having that in-person contact. But I think that now that the world's starting to change a little bit and people are starting to be more comfortable and more information's coming about of the risk and the safeties of COVID, I think that we're going to start to see some normalcy come back in the next few weeks, and hopefully we're able to deliver upon the value that those companies are hoping for.
Thank you, Denny.
Thanks.
All right, our next question will come from Mike Solarte. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks very much. Hey, Denny, good to see you again. I know that you're longing to get back to victory lane. You're having just a dynamite season without the wins. As a driver, I know you're focusing on just the next one and getting better and trying to win the next race. But when you get back to your house, and I see the golf clubs behind you, how are you relieving some of that frustration of not winning races? Because you're chasing it every week and you're running well, but there's got to be some way where I'm just thinking that you're pounding golf balls in a simulator just to kind of release some of the tension.
Well, I wish I had more time for it. About the only time I do have is maybe to grab a club and play on the simulator. But in real life, I just haven't had the time that I've had before to, decompress and relax. It's a goal of mine to just get to one day a week where I don't have anything scheduled. Right now, Saturday is kind of those days where, I'm not working per se. So, it's been a grind. It's been a big grind. But, when I think about our performance and you talk about frustrations of not winning, there's only 2 races where we had race winning cars that we didn't win. And one of them was Daytona. Obviously, Daytona is Daytona. There's drafting and you can't always control your outcome there. But the other one was Richmond. And beyond that, all we did was just optimize our day. We were second or third best at every racetrack we went to from Daytona to Richmond. You look at our running position. Yeah, we were leading laps at Martinsville, but the competition, the 2 guys that we were really racing that day had issues and they fell to the back. And so I led a lot of laps, and it gave people just equate, oh, you're leading laps, well, you're the fastest car. Well, that's not always the case. And so I'm not really disappointed. I'm more happy that, we optimize our days 7 times this year, where that was as good as the finish we were possibly going to get, was running second or third. There was only 2, Richmond being the last one, where it was like, you probably had the best car, and we didn't win. Unfortunately, there was a caution that came out and we got beat on a restart. So I don't beat our team up too much about the wins because we just truly haven't had the dominant cars that we had last year where, we led all the laps because we were super fast and we just beat the competition. This year's been a little different. We've been just really, really close and really, really consistent and upfront, but just not the overall outright speed that we've had last year. But we're getting better. I mean, it's obviously we've led the most laps 3 races in a row, so we're pretty strong.
And just on that same vein, is it just something that you guys have to get just a little bit better at, or do you maybe need just some kind of stupid racing luck to kind of fall your way when you've got that second best or third best car where you have the opportunity to kind of steal one?
Yeah, when you look at NASCAR racing in general, the fastest car rarely wins. It's a low percentage, 20%, somewhere in that range, where the actual fastest car wins the race. It just so happens when you look at, let me just throw out Atlanta. Kyle Larson had the fastest car. Ryan Blaney was the second, and neither one of them made a mistake. So we finished third. So, it was just, that's that kind of luck that you need to finish it off, is that you need the guys that are a little bit better than you to mess up. But each race that we've gotten beat, no one has yet. So I think that, I always constantly look at what I could do better. What could I do different on the Richmond restart to not get passed by the 48? I'm always analyzing those types of things on and not passing the buck saying, well, if my car would have been better on the short run, I would have won. No, well, forget that. My car is what it is. Let me just figure out how I can drive it the best way possible to hold off a win here. So that's part of the process I go through and learning more every day about it.
Thanks, Denny. At the Wells Fargo, you teeing it up?
I wish. No time. I'm gonna go watch though a little bit.
All right. Our next question is going to come from Jeff with Empire Sports. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, Denny. Thanks for joining us today. Your first Cup Series start came at Kansas. How has the track changed the most since then, and how have you adapted to it?
It's been so different. I remember, Joe was actually telling a story about, Kansas and me going there, and I remember qualifying. It was actually the first track that I got in a Cup car. It was a test at Kansas for the race that was coming up, and I remember telling him after my first run, man, I love the horsepower of these Cup cars. Like, it just fits my style so much better. And we had a decent day there. I remember we had a flat tire under green and never got our laps back, but we were pretty competitive and pretty fast. But the track has changed so much since then. The surface has changed, it got repaved. That was the old generation car. So you had to drive those different. So it's evolved. Like the Kansas today of 2021 is nothing like the Kansas from 2015 or 2005 or 6. It's just so different. It's almost like a new racetrack. So, we as drivers evolve every time that there's a rules change or a cars change. It makes us drive differently at the same track that we may have won at the year before. So it's different, but I definitely would say that I love the new Kansas. I've obviously had a little bit more success at it.
And moving on to Darlington next week, you guys unveiled your throwback scheme this week. Looks like you'll be honoring Slick Johnson, the 11. What went behind that? Why was this the perfect time to honor Slick Johnson with your number 11 scheme?
Well, it was important. Gordon Logan, the founder of Sport Clips, has got a deep connection there in South Carolina. And he wanted to pay tribute to Slick, who was, from that area. So it worked out great. We've had a ton of success there with those guys and them in the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. So I look forward to hopefully getting them back in victory lane. That's a track that, we were able to win at last year. So want to do it one more time.
Awesome. Well, good luck this weekend.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to take another question here from Chase Wilhelm. Go ahead, Chase.
Joining us today. Going back to what Mike was talking about golf, I saw that the Golf Guys Tour has started back up, and Bubba was able to collect the trophy there. How was that to start that back up? And also, when you guys are out there, you and Larson, Senhouse, and Bubba, Do you guys talk much racing, or is that your guys' chance to kind of really disengage and get away from it all?
Yeah, it just kind of depends. Our groupings are all random, so we don't know. We don't get to decide necessarily who we're going to play with, but there's times we talk shop out there. But most of the time it's about how terrible we suck at golf. We think we're trying to pull off shots that, pros, it's hard for pros to make, and we get pissed off when we don't get it done. So we're all competitors. So we're most of the time talking about golf, but it is a way for us to get away. I mean, this can be a grind at times, and you got to just be patient with it. But golf has always been a great way for me to kind of decompress and get away from the work aspect of racing and being a race car driver just for a few hours.
Now, Bubba said he put on Instagram, he went from a zero to a hero in that tour. Were you surprised that he got the victory?
Yeah, very surprised. He was just there in a fill-in role. And the guys, we all have our, handicap system that we play off of and whatnot. So, he shot the best relative to his handicap. So, worked out for him. And, Hemrick, newcomer, in as well. He finished second. So, yeah, the new guys, they took it to us.
All right, appreciate it, Denny. Thank you.
All right, and we're going to take one final question here. We're going to go to Michael Shelton. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you very much. Well, Denny, just want to revisit Talladega quickly. Last weekend, obviously, it was a rough one for you as you were involved. You got caught up in the 2 wrecks to end the first 2 stages. And, of course, Joey Logano had a scary crash, and he was very critical of the package at the super speedways afterwards. I just wanted to ask for your thoughts and see what, if anything, you would want to see changed about the super speedway package, if not for the remainder of this season, but maybe with the next gen car.
It's a super sensitive and loaded question. I just want to see advancements. I think all the drivers just want to see advancements in safety. As far as the current super speedway package, it's we've got a huge spoiler on that car, and it's got not only a spoiler but a wicker, and that really just bogs these cars down, whoever's leading, dramatically, and it creates these huge runs. And we're running 3 different engine packages anyway, so I don't see why we have to necessarily be running that huge blade with the more horsepower. But I think it's something that NASCAR wanted. That's what they tested around, and they wanted to have big runs and exciting racing. And there's a fine line between excitement and danger, from our seats. But I just hope it gets better. I don't know what will make it better. The quick answer would be, well, just make the spoiler smaller and the horsepower less. But there's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot of people that have stake in the series that might have an objection to that. And as far as the new car, I think that they're just, every safety aspect of the car should be better. We're building it from scratch, so there's no reason why anything should be worse. And that's from the driver's perspective, is that we want to see every aspect of that car being safer than it was previous.
Yeah, I apologize if it was a loaded question there. I just wanted to get your thoughts from last week, but we appreciate your time today. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, Denny, thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the best of luck this weekend in Kansas.
All right, thank y'all.